As we think about our work together, so many of our lives have been enriched by so many people, but for me personally, none more than the Kern family. And Bob and Patricia Kern and their generosity, and the great team, Jim Ron and others at the Kern Family Foundation, have not only been so generous to us, but their support, their leadership, and their vision for this work and for our country is exceptional. And I'm just grateful for their leadership and their support. And to each of you, for all the things that you're doing for our country, inspiring our students. See, I became an educator 25 years ago because of teachers who had made a difference in my life, and teachers who believed in me and didn't allow me to follow a path of destruction and dead ends, but rather tried to lift me up. And that's why I became an educator. And I joined Project Lead the Way in 2011 because I wanted to make a difference for our country. And I wanted to be able to work with leaders around this country to inspire the next generation. And as we think about our mission at Project Lead the Way, it's to empower students to thrive in this evolving world so they can have economic prosperity. And we have 4 goals. Our first goal is to provide engaging and inspiring and empowering student experience. And we do that through an activity problem-based curriculum, starting as early as kindergarten, where we get students doing. It's empowering for them. And we have 5 programs. Not only our high school engineering program, which is our legacy program, but also in biomedical science and computer science. We have a full gateway program for middle school students, and our newest program started 3 years ago called Launch for kindergartners through 5th grade. It's amazing when a kindergartner looks at you and says, I'm an innovator, I'm an engineer. And that's what they want to be. We just recently announced that we're going to start a preschool program. And then I was asked when the prenatal program was coming, but it's going to be a while. But for us, it's not just creating curriculum and putting programs in schools. It's helping students develop a skill set, a mindset, helping them learn to solve problems and to think critically, to communicate effectively, to collaborate with their peers, and to solve some of our most vexing problems, things that are affecting their community. So we build all the curriculum for schools. And then our second goal is to eliminate barriers and improve and increase student access and student participation. What I mean by eliminating barriers, there are so many things that are easy to do. For us, going into affluent communities where parents have high expectations for their kids, schools want this kind of experience. That's the easy part. The tough part is going into places where it's really hard. The underserved communities, low-income children, lack of education where there aren't high expectations. And that's what we really try to penetrate, to ensure that every child in America has access to this kind of experience. And then not just putting a program in school and checking a box and saying, we've done something special there, but rather, how do we build this pipeline, increase student participation, and ensure that more children get this kind of experience? It's about building this human capital pipeline. So as we think about this, we're now in all school types. We're in Indian reservations, we're in the largest urban school districts in America, we're in small rural schools with 16 students. We're in places where we didn't think we could be. And we're inspiring students to think differently about their own existence. And we're growing. In 2011, we had about 2,500 programs in schools across America in all 50 states. Today, we have nearly 13,000 programs in almost 11,000 schools. We've gone from 300,000 students in 7 years to millions. Last year, we had 3.5 million students participating in PLTW programs, and we're growing more programs now in a single year than we grew in our first 15 years combined. Okay. Schools are embracing this, and students are excited about it. And that's why this work is so important. I was in a school in Wyoming, and was talking with students, and this little fifth grader looked at me, and I was taking questions. You know how hard it is to take questions from elementary kids. They're going to ask you anything and everything. No filters. But this student looked at me and he said, "Hey, big guy, I have a question for you." He said, "What keeps you up at night?" And I looked at him and I said, "You do." Him and 54 million others that need this kind of experience. And there has to be a relentless pursuit of being in every school district in America. And we will not stop until we accomplish that. And then when we do, we're not going to stop. The third goal is how we transform teaching. It's not enough just provide curriculum, put it into schools, and say good luck. We have to train teachers how to teach in a problem-based classroom, how to reverse their role as a teacher, as coach, and a facilitator. Too often we've taught teachers, here's the information, now go give it to students. And then we give them a test and see if they remember it. But what happens when students are asking you questions in which you have no idea what the answer is? We think about innovation. Students coming up with these amazing questions, their curiosity. And as a teacher, how do we handle that? How do we learn together? And that's the critical part of PLTW. And I believe the most important part is how we can affect this instructional core, not only providing curriculum and the student, but then how do we affect the teacher? And our training has been very effective. In the last 2 years, we've trained 28,000 teachers across the country. We've now trained over 55,000 teachers, and it continues to grow. School districts not only wanting this kind of training for their teachers, teaching Project Lead the Way, but more and more coming to us asking, can you just teach us how to teach an activity problem-based classroom? And how can we take this kind of experience and make it apply into other disciplines? And we think that's a critical piece for all of us. And then our fourth goal is to build a thriving enterprise, an extended network that can support thousands of schools, millions of students, thousands of teachers across this country, and help them understand the urgency and the importance of this work. Okay? That's why we all come together, because I think we have a story to tell, and I believe our country needs us to tell that story. This work is critical. It's critical for our students and the future of our country. But it has to be intentional. So as we think about our work, all this has to be integrated. We do not want students to go to math class and science class and then STEM or Project Lead the Way. We want them to understand that this is the foundation of everything. It's all integrated, all connects. I was in South Korea and I was talking with students at a national university, and I asked them, I said, give me one example of something not connected to STEM. And this young girl, right in the center, raised her hand and she said, babysitting. And I'm like, really? I said, are you talking about that multi-billion-dollar industry of baby food, baby formula, car seats, diapers, and toys? And she said, yeah, that one. I'm like, we make all that stuff. Right? We make instruments for musicians. We make computer software. We make acoustical panels and the technology that makes all this happen. It's at the foundation of Broadway and the foundation of General Motors. Okay? And we have to help students understand that, because it opens up a world of possibility to them. Rather than thinking about this in a very narrow way, they can understand how they can apply these skills across multiple sectors. That's why these transportable skills are so important for them. And it has to be applied. We can't continue to teach math down one hallway, science down the other, and expect that students are going to make these connections on their own. Howard Gardner says the greatest deficit for American students is their inability to apply learning in a context in which it wasn't learned. We learn math and we have to go apply math. We have created a culture in our country where students know that the reason they learn math is because there's going to be a test. The real test is years to come, when they can apply this to solve real-world problems. Why would we wait then to help them do that? We need to do it now. And it has to be relevant, real world. I learned something about relevancy as a parent. I have 4 sons. And my son Drew, he was He was young, and his teacher called me and said, we have a real concern about Drew and math. I'm like, what's the concern? Well, I asked him a question today, and he didn't know the answer. I'm like, well, Drew's 3. He's in preschool. And the teacher said, I know, but it's a question he should have been able to answer. I said, what was the question? The teacher said, well, Drew, if you have 12 pencils and I take 4 away, how many pencils will you have remaining? And my son looked at his teacher and said, who cares? I only need 1 pencil. I'm like, way to go, Drew. I didn't actually say that to him. But that night we're sitting and we're watching a basketball game. I said, hey, Drew, what's the score? He said, 59-54. I said, how many points are we down? He said, 5. I said, why are we down 5? He said, Dad, they said we're only shooting 38%. I'm like, we don't have a math problem. We do have a relevancy problem. He didn't care about the pencils, but he cared about other things that applied math. And if we can bring that kind of experience to our students, all of a sudden math means something to them. By the way, he is a second-year student at Purdue majoring in finance. He gets math. Okay. So, we have to foster students' curiosity as well. Our children come to school with a natural curiosity. They play. And then they get to school and we teach them how to do school. We teach them how to follow the rules, how to comply. Stay to the right, raise your hand, don't go to the bathroom unless you have permission. Okay. Open the book, close the book, next chapter, next book. That's what we teach them. It's not the way the real world works. And all of a sudden, this curiosity they have gets stifled. We have to unleash their potential and nurture this curiosity and encourage them to ask questions. I always love, and we learn these things as parents, right? And when the students say, why? How many times have we said, because I said so? Well, we send that message a lot. Okay? Because it's time for the next subject, because it's time to go do this, because of this. Rather than nurturing curiosity and having them think differently. We have to encourage this entrepreneurial and growth mindset. How do we help students understand that what they're learning today means something in their future and that they have to continue to learn? This growth mindset is so critical, and we have to start early. See, I've never believed that the way we really fundamentally change this is to drop a high school program in and say, now we're going to inspire you. If we want to fundamentally change the demographics and encourage more girls, underrepresented students, we have to get to them early before these gender stereotypes set in, before girls believe this is only for the boys. Okay? That's critical for us. We also have to think about how we assess student learning. See, this is an area that I feel passionate about. We tend to penalize students from where they begin rather than reward them for where they end. I mean, think about it. Students go into a class, they don't understand something, they don't do well at the beginning. I did a study when I was a school superintendent. The question was this. I said, what percentage of these students who failed this particular class failed in the first 6 weeks? We found that over half of them failed the class in the first 6 weeks because they couldn't accumulate enough points. And all of a sudden they get discouraged. And all of a sudden they think this is hard. They don't understand, we don't help them understand failure. We have to do a better job of helping them understand that learning is a continuous process. It's an iterative process. And I think about not being good at something. It's painful to me to go walk into a second grade classroom and a student says, I'm not good at math. And I'm like, you're not good at a lot of things. And there are a lot of things I'm not good at. Everything's hard if you're not good at it. But you practice. And you can get good at anything. And I hear people say, well, they're born this way. No one's born that way. We're not born able to talk or walk and play the piano. We certainly aren't born with math skills. We learn these things. We learn science. We learn how to build things. These are learned behaviors. Right? We can teach them how to be successful through failure. And that's it's very important. I think about, one of my sons came home one day and he told me that, he said, math is really hard. I'm really struggling in math. I said, are you doing the best you can? He said, yes. I said, so what's the problem? He said, well, I can only get a B in this class now. I said, you have 6 weeks to go. He goes, I know, but I don't have enough points to get an A. This is the best I can do. And then we got in this conversation about how he just worked to learn math. So later on that night, I said, hey, Riley, you want to go to the gym? He said, sure. So we go into the gym and starts shooting baskets. And he made 7 out of 10 free throws. I said, Riley, let's go home. He said, Dad, I got to stay. I'm going to hit 10 out of 10. I said, Riley, why would you do that? He said, because I want to hit 10. I'm like, really? This is really hard. You have a basketball this big going into a rim this big, 10 feet high, 15 feet away, and you're going to make 10 out of 10. That's really hard. He said, don't you think I can do it? I said, I think you can. And I think you can learn math too. But you better practice. Right? And we have to help our students understand that. And then all of this has to have currency, though. It has to be meaningful for students. And I think that's where all of you come in. Right? That when we think about this kind of experience that students are having in their K-12 years, then what does it really mean? Right? If they just take this program and then go into college and have a normal college experience, we believe they have lost all of that, or much of it. But if we can create this seamless process where students, all this is acknowledged and honored and built upon, we can take students from where they're at and we can create something great with them. Right? And I think about like the SAT. And this is what I mean by currency. We've all taken the SAT, and all of our institutions require it, or the ACT. I think, what would happen to the SAT or the ACT if college universities would say, we're no longer to require for admission? There are very few students who would go take the test for fun. Right? They're only taking it because you require it. Why don't we start to change what we require? And instead of a test, it's about experience. What if we were to start looking at those experiences and create the currency for that we recruit students from that perspective? And that's what employers are doing. And we think about career learning throughout Project Lead the Way, which we start very early. But we're not asking students to pick careers. We're asking them to help and helping them understand careers and the opportunities available for them. Companies like Toyota, who are recruiting students directly out of high school, Project Lead the Way students, bringing them into their AMT program, paying for their college education, all on Toyota campuses across the country, okay? Because they want our students, and they recruit them very intentionally. We have students here at this conference who are interning at Lockheed Martin, okay? Directly out of Project Lead the Way, right into Lockheed Martin, because they want to make connections with these students. Okay? Companies like Chevron, Verizon, General Motors, Dow Chemical. I was in a meeting with John Watson, former chairman, CEO of Chevron, and they were making a major investment in PLTW, and John asked me the question. He said, we get all the engineers we need. At the time, they were a Fortune 5 company. And he said, why should we make this investment around engineering? My response was, John, in all due respect, it's not about you. It's about this entire ecosystem. It's about your supply chain. It's about people in small communities who need this kind of a skilled workforce. And we need to build this in local communities so that all companies can thrive. And they went on to make a multi-million-dollar investment in schools around the country in Project Lead the Way, and saturating PLTW, or schools with PLTW, around all their business units across the country. And then how we counsel students. We talked about testing, but I hear people say all the time, we hear counselors will bring students in, and the question is, so what are you good at? And then they'll say, well, just follow your dreams, and it'll all work out. It's such irrational advice and wrong. We like to dream, right? But the world doesn't care about our children's dreams. They care about what they can do. They care about skills. that's how they're going to have enduring careers. We have to think about what this means from a career perspective. See, this is about human capital. It's about building this talent pipeline, but we have to work together. We have hundreds of thousands of students now coming out of PLTW programs looking for places that will honor and acknowledge their experience. They want a different experience. I get emails, communication from students all the time in places where they'll say, I am learning something now. I've just been introduced to something in my junior year in college that I learned in high school. So what does that experience look like for them? And more students are choosing places that honor and acknowledge their experience. This is where, in what you're doing. You're the model for this country. You're setting the example. You're setting the bar. And we need to share this with more people. We need to find a way for our students to get recruited. My youngest son plays baseball. And all my kids are in sports. And Riley got a call inviting him to come to campus. Okay. And in the fall, he was invited to 9 college visits to pursue a baseball career in college. They invited him in. In the second visit, he was offered a scholarship to the University of Michigan to play baseball. Riley was 14 years old. He just finished his freshman year in high school. Okay. It's like we can figure out how to recruit athletes in middle school and high school, but then when it comes to some of the most fundamental parts of our economy and the students' future, we wait for them to come to us. And I just believe we have an opportunity here to go identify and recruit these students and keep them in this pipeline. Okay. We need to take the same and place the same emphasis on these students who are pursuing engineering, computer science, as we do our athletes. And we need to celebrate in the same way. I can sit down for a national signing of these kids going to play sports, right? And we make such a big deal out of the media. What about the kids who are going to be the next innovators and entrepreneurs in our country? The students who are coming to your universities, how are we celebrating them and holding them up? I just think we can do something really special about that. And then I think about students, for instance, going into music and who spend 13, 14, 15 years practicing the violin and get to college. We don't say to them, put your instrument up for the next 2 years where you take some classes before you get to start playing again. We build supports around them. We give them all kinds of experiences, practice rooms, one-on-one training. We do all these things so they can take the skills they have and build on them. See, I think Keene is uniquely positioned to tell this national story. As this room has continued to grow, more and more people have come to this. More and more people recognize the importance of it. Our students need to know the opportunities that await them. It needs to be available anywhere they want to go. See, I believe this is about our national economy. It's about our national security. It's about our students' future. And I believe we have a moral and economic imperative to get this right. And I believe the places that get this right, the countries that get this right, are the countries that are going to win. And I just want that to be us. Thank you for all that you do for our students. Thank you for all you do for our country. I hope you have a wonderful conference, and thank you for having me today. Thank you.